New homes are coming to market in Sacramento at their highest prices ever. That's right. The new listing median price in Sacramento has hit a new peak. But other metrics are suggesting that it's actually a pretty good time to buy in the City of Trees. So which is it? That's the question we're answering in today's Sacramento Real Estate Update for March 19th, 2025. Let's get right into the data. And we're looking at the latest weekly print from Redfin for the Sacramento metro area, which of course includes all the suburbs surrounding Sacramento. Each colored line represents a year. This year, 2025, is the green line. And right now we're looking at the median sale price of homes in Sacramento. And we're looking at a median sale price in Sacramento of $593,000. That's a healthy but not absurd 4% growth over the same time last year. Since we checked in 2 weeks ago, prices have only climbed $3,000. That's really not a huge jump for this time of year, which is why it's slightly puzzling to see in our next metric that homes were listed this week at their highest prices ever. Right now, we're looking at the new listing median price. This is the median price that homes were listed in Sacramento this week. This week, the median new listing price was $617,000, almost $618,000. This represents the highest new list price ever and a steep incline of $15K since we checked in last week. Sacramento listing agents are getting aggressive. And guys, this is exactly why you can't blindly agree to pay your agent 3% or even 2% when you're trying to buy a home in Sacramento, even when your agent tells you that the seller is going to pay their commission. Let me show you why. Okay, let's say that you are a home buyer in Sacramento. That's you, and you have found an agent and have agreed to the traditional 2.5% commission. And you've also found a median home seller who's selling a median home, and we're going to round the price up slightly just to make the numbers easier. He's selling his home for $600,000. So you offer the seller $600,000. The seller pays your agent's fee, which in this case is $15,000. And this little roundabout here is the bullshit logic that realtors use to make you think you're not paying them when really you are. Let me show you. Let's compare this scene to a scenario in which you do pay your agent yourself. So here's you, Sacktown buyer. Here's your 2.5% agent. And here's our median home seller with their $600,000 median Sacramento home. Now, if your budget is still $600,000, that means you can afford to pay the seller $585,000 because you're going to have to pay your agent their $15K commission yourself. Well, guess what? Whether the money weaves its way through the seller or not, in both cases, you're paying your agent's commission because in both cases, the seller ends up with a net $585,000. Exact same situation over here. These two scenarios are identical to the seller. When your agent tells you that the seller is paying his commission, it actually means you're offering that much less money to the seller. It's true. Look, let me just clean this up. Let's say there's a buyer in Sacramento who works with an agent who charges just 1%. Again, we have our median seller. And in this case, the buyer offers that traditional $600K, and the seller only has to pay the agent $6,000. In this case, the offer that is being made to the seller is actually for $594,000. Now you tell me which home buyer is going to win this bidding, the one with the 2.5% agent or the one with the 1% agent. I tell you in every case, it's going to be the 1% agent's buyer. Telling you that the seller is paying their commission is just one part of the California realtor scam that is swindling California homebuyers of hundreds of millions of dollars per year. I exposed the full scam. I made a video about it. I'm going to link to it right up there, and I'm going to put the link in the description. I highly encourage you to watch it if you're planning to buy a home in Sacramento this year. Now let's get back to the data. Now we're looking at new listings, and this is where one begins to wonder why agents are pricing homes so high in Sacramento. This week we saw 606 new listings hit the market in Sacramento, and that's 27.3% more new listings than the same week last year. And new listings have really been ahead of last year's numbers for weeks on end now. And remember, this is a non-cumulative graph. This is the number of new listings coming to market each week. So when you're posting such growth over last year, week after week after week, That means a lot of new listings are coming to market in Sacramento. Meanwhile, homes sold, and this is an important metric because this is how most listings exit the market. Meanwhile, homes sold is ahead of last year, but not by nearly as large a margin. This week, we sold 407 homes in Sacramento, which represents 8% more homes than the same week last year. And there is a little margin here between the green line, which is this year, and the orange line, which is last year. The margin was bigger at the beginning of the year. But the fact that new listings is outpacing homes sold by such a margin is a good sign for home buyers. And of course, we look at pending sales to get an indication of where homes sold is headed. Pending sales is a leading indicator of homes sold because a home goes pending about a month before it becomes a home sold. And as you can see, for most of the year, from about here to the present now, we have been right in line with last year's pending sales numbers. This week, 478 homes went pending, which actually trails last year by 2.2%. And when this year's pending sales numbers are this tight to last year's numbers and our homes sold numbers are a little ahead of last year, it means we can expect homes sold to pretty much stay where it is, maybe fall tighter in line with last year's numbers in the month ahead. In other words, this dynamic with more new listings coming to market than homes exiting market via homes sold, this dynamic should continue for weeks to come. As a result, when we look at active listings, we see a slowly but steadily widening gap between this year and last year. This week, we had 4,063 listings on the Sacramento market, which represents 28% more listings than the same week last year. And what's really wild about this graph is that every single week, the growth in active listings has increased. This is actually kind of crazy. We started the year with 20.98% more active listings on the market than the same week the previous year. That grew to 21.06, 21.16, 22.03, 22.52, 24.28, 25.57, 26.6, 27.82, and now this week, 28.01. If this trend continues, pretty soon we'll be 30% ahead of last year. Could we get to 40% ahead of last year? More active listings on the market means more inventory, means more options for home buyers, also means downward pressure on pricing. If you're a home buyer, this is what you want to see. And this good news is reflected in weeks of supply. I love this metric because it balances supply against demand, so you can really compare apples to apples when comparing this year to last year and previous years. Right now, there are 10.9 weeks of supply on the Sacramento market. That represents 2.5 weeks more than the same time last year. And while the growth between this year and last year has not been as consistent as we saw in the active listings metric, it has been growing since the beginning of the year. We started the year just 0.6 weeks ahead of the previous year. Then that slowly grew up into the 1 week and change over last year to 2.2 to 2.4 to now 2.5 more weeks of supply on the market than last year. Again, one wants to ask, how much is this metric going to grow in terms of growth over last year? Are we going to get to 3 weeks more supply, 4 weeks more supply? Again, these are good numbers for Sacramento home buyers to be seeing. Let's quickly hit a few more good numbers. Now we're looking at off market in 2 weeks. This is the percent of homes that are pending, that went pending within 2 weeks of being listed. We're at 56.2%. That's down from last year's numbers by 3.7%. Fewer homes going off market in 2 weeks means the market is a little bit slower, a little bit calmer than it was this time last year. Now we're looking at price drops. This is the percent of active listings that have had a price drop since they came to market. Right now we're at 6.5%. That's 2 percentage points higher than we were last year. More price cuts means fewer homes are selling, they're not moving, and sellers need to cut their prices to get these homes sold. That's good news for home buyers. And lastly, we're looking at average sale to list ratio. This is the ratio of the average sale price to the average list price. When this is higher, it means that homes are selling for more than they're being listed. When this is lower, it means that homes are selling for less than their list price. Right now, our average sale to list ratio is 99.3. I'll write that up here so you can actually see it. And that's well below where we were last year, when at this point we were already over the 100% mark. This time last year, we were at 100.0. So with a lower average sale to list ratio, given that we're at the same time of year, it means that we are in a calmer market. Of course, we're in California, so home buying is not easy. Check out my playlist, How to Buy a Home in California, for the best tips and insider info that you need to make sure you make the most of your home buying experience. And I'll have another Sacramento real estate update for you in 2 weeks.